AsSalamu Alykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another episode of Barakah Broadcast. In these episodes, we'll be listening to people from our Muslim community and talking about the struggles they faced through their journey and try to learn and benefit from them, Insha Allah, and try to bring the ummah together one broadcast at a time. Today, our guest is Br.Osama Abdelrahman.
AsSalamu Alykum, Brother Osama. How are you doing today?
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, doing well. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan for joining us today. And to start off, I would like you to introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so my name is Osama Abdelrahman. I have been living in the United States for 21 years almost now. Previously, I was born and lived in Egypt for 8 years. Until my father came here and got a job, as you guys know him, Sheikh Muhammad. And then we moved here when I was 8 and then lived here ever since. Currently, I work at Oculus, a VR company owned by Facebook. And I do QA managing. So I'm a QA manager. And then I also work part-time with BAMREC. To help develop their app. And then I also recently just started a branding company called Dose of Hope with my friend Fadi.
So you mentioned that you started the company Dose of Hope. How did it come to be, and what were your struggles to making this happen?
Definitely. So Dose of Hope was an idea that we came up with about 9 years ago. And it was around the time that I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of cancer. And while I was going through chemotherapy and stuff at the hospital, it's very long sessions. It's mentally exhausting, physically exhausting on the body. If you know anyone that's ever gone through that process, it's a lot. But alhamdulillah, it was a good experience because of the lessons that I learned out of getting diagnosed with cancer. So anyways, like I said, I was browsing on Instagram and I was looking at just friends' photos and things, and then an ad popped up and it said Dose of Hope. So I purchased a sweater. And when it came in the mail, I found out that it said Dose of Dope, not Dose of Hope. And then I was like, no, this is not what I wanted. I wanted something that was that resembled, I was getting a lot of doses of chemotherapy, with the syringe and things like that. And so I was like, oh, this is really cool. And it kind of goes into what I'm dealing with. And I'd wear this hoodie when I was going into chemotherapy sessions, but then it wasn't that at all. So that's kind of the idea, how the first phrase, when the first time that it popped into my head was then. And then over the course of the years, my friend Fadi was living in Egypt at the time. He moved back here to the States, and then I was wearing that Dose of Dope hoodie, and then he saw it, and then he was like, it would be so much cooler if it said Dose of Hope. And then I was like, this is the reason why I bought it. And then we went ahead and started brainstorming what we want Dose of Hope to be. And ideally, it's essentially what it is today. Is there's a lot of things that it could be, that it could become, that we want it to become. But the main streamline is the main idea is that we want it to be an identity. We want it to be something that people recognize, that they can be hopeful in any situation, any struggle that they're going through. I personally, again, because my father was Sheikh Muhammad. And because he's known in the community, and then his son was diagnosed with cancer, so it was like a shockwave news in the community. And I had an immense amount of support from the local community here, as well as overseas. My dad used to teach Quran in Saudi Arabia as well. So people back there were calling us and making dua for me, and making dua for us as a family and things like that. So I felt so much support that I didn't have time to internalize what I was going through at the time. And I just stayed positive and stayed hopeful because of that amount of support. And I think that anyone that's going through anything should feel that type of support, and they should experience that type of hope around them. And that's kind of what the brand is today. Is there's t-shirts, yes, there's hoodies, yes, but we're not even trying to sell that many shirts or hoodies, but we're trying to send a message of hope across the entire community, Muslim, non-Muslim, anyone really, like with any struggle, that there's a message of hope. And so my experience is that like after like my news of getting diagnosed with cancer was like out in the world, is that after alhamdulillah, like I was cured and I was like in remission, I got a lot of like messages from other people in the States that were going through cancer as well. And they were like, we just want to talk to someone else that's been through it. And so long term, the idea here is we want to create like an unofficial mentorship style of like community where I can post my story and I can connect with other people that are going through it now or that have gone through it before, and kind of create like a support hub for people like with all struggles. And it can be something as big as like getting diagnosed with a disease, or as small as like I struggle with procrastination, like, you know, and there's a lot of us out there that do that. So
yeah,
so that's the plan, inshallah.
So you mentioned you had cancer. Was there any point where you felt totally down and you were like, I'm not getting out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like throughout the whole process, I was like really like calm. But I think when I was going through the chemotherapy itself, like and in front of my parents, like I wouldn't show any weaknesses, or any weakness. Like I wouldn't show them that I was like in pain or like I was struggling. Like, you know, I was always trying to like be happy and things, and they were doing the same thing for me. But I think like alone, like at night and things like that, like, yeah, definitely I would cry and I would think about like, you know, why am I the one that got this? And, like what did I ever do to get this? You know, I was just questioning myself and trying to like really like understand, like, is this like a test from Allah, or is it like a result of something that I was doing? Like, was I sinning so badly that Allah like needed to wake me up, you know? And I you know, till this day, I can't put my finger on it, but I'm glad, alhamdulillah, like, and I'm grateful, not glad, but alhamdulillah, I'm grateful for the lessons learned from that experience and like who I became out of it.
So while you were questioning yourself, what was something that inspired you to be like, no, I will get through this, and inshallah, I'll be like fine after this?
So definitely like other people in the community, like Anis Kadura, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cure him. He's dealing with like a stroke now, right? He had a stroke a couple years back and he's recovering from it. But he had the same type of cancer that I had like 20 years prior, like around the same age that I had. And it was like the same exact symptoms. And he was telling, like, he came over to the house and he would constantly come over to the house and kind of like, you know, share his experience. And then also he would share like a hadith. I'm not sure if it's a hadith, to be honest. So I don't know what it is, but I remember specifically a lot of people would tell me this, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests those who he loves. Right. So that was like reassuring to me, that I was like, okay, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes me and like he loves me, and that he wants me to stay close to him. Right. And maybe he did notice that I was going down like a bad path, or like I was slightly like, you know, I wasn't being myself that year that I was diagnosed with cancer. And then it was kind of like, you know, like I had to take a detour so I can come back, and, you know, try to become like practicing and stay on the deen, and, you know, as hard as it is to do so growing up in America. So, yeah.
So to end it off, I wanted to ask you, what is something that you could say to the youth that are struggling with problems in life and people that have cancer nowadays? What is something that you could give them that it would be a dose of hope or an inspiration to them? Yeah.
So I'm going to answer this question in kind of like two parts. So one, for just general youth, for anyone out there, I think that the way that we treat people goes a long way, you know? So I think focus on the way that you treat people and what we say around people and the words that we use with people. Right. And the reason I say that is because there's a hadith that I heard at a very young age. And it's a long story, but pretty much the summary of it is the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with companions and he said, a man from Jannah is going to enter. And people, they all looked, and this guy entered. and he was described as being like an average Muslim, like he wasn't a known companion, right? And Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, he was a son of one of the famous companions. He wanted to know why this guy was guaranteed Jannah. And so he went to him and he told him like, hey, like I'm having issues with my dad. Can I stay with you for like 3 days? And he wanted to observe any extra like worship that this guy was doing. And at the end of the 3 days, he told him like, I don't have a problem with my dad. I just wanted to observe you because the Prophet ﷺ said that you are amongst the people of Jannah. And he's like, but I didn't notice that you were doing anything extra. And the guy said, yeah. He's like, I don't do anything extra. He's like, I don't pray extra qiyam. I don't fast extra days. I don't give extra money. And he said, but the one thing that I do is every night before I go to sleep, I forgive anyone that has wronged me throughout my day. Right. And it kind of ties to a different hadith that says like, have mercy on those on earth or on everything around you, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can have mercy on you on the day of judgment, or can just have mercy on you. And so I think oftentimes we get caught up in our community focusing on the actions of worship and forgetting that treating people with respect and with dignity is a big part of the deen. And the Prophet ﷺ said, like, I was sent to perfect manners. So like cultures already have good manners and they have good practices. But when you're Muslim and you call yourself like a practicing Muslim, then those manners should increase. They shouldn't stay the same. You should always perfect those manners and try to increase on them. So that's the advice that I would give just youth in general. And then for folks going through cancer or any other like big life-changing struggle, disease, is I know that some people don't really like to tell people like their struggles. And with the age of social media, we're so used to people showing us their best moments. We don't see people's like worst moments. You never see someone posting themselves like getting chemo shots and like puking right after it, right? It's just like no one wants to see that. Everyone's like no. But for those of us that are going through anything like that, like just know that like because you tell people, it doesn't mean that you're asking for them to treat you differently. And people that have people around them that are going through something like this, don't treat them differently. Don't try to baby them, right? It's one of the worst feelings to see, like, when because you're dealing with something, everyone's like, no, don't do this. Like, take it easy, do this. I think just treat them like normally. Show them that you love them. Show them that you're there for them. Try to get their mind off of things, and then know that the people around you, even if people do like treat you differently a little bit, it's not because they think that you're weak. It's not because they think that you need extra attention right now. It's because out of their love and mercy to you, that they want you to be as comfortable as possible. They don't want to add any extra stress to your already like stressful situation, right? So that's the advice that I would give people.
So Jazakallah khairan, Brother Osama, for joining us today and telling about your amazing story and how Dose of Hope came to be. Inshallah, join us next time. Wassalamu Alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for watching today's episode. Be sure to check out our other episodes as well as our Instagram page at Barakah Broadcast. Email us or comment down below and let us know what you think of our content. And if you have any questions, also go check out at Dose of Hope on Instagram and go show them some love and support. See you next time, Insha Allah.